it was not the point of you saying you weren't going to come see me. Like that's, and it wasn't the point of you saying that you didn't want me come on stage. Uh, it's the tone in which it was a very condescending tone.
Welcome to another episode of Becoming with Angelina Watkins, where we are turning dreamers into believers and doers. We are here to help you become who you're supposed to be so you can do what you're purposed to do, so you can live the life that you want to live. And we have a 5-day challenge coming up just to do that for you called Getting Unstuck and Unbothered. It's a 5-day challenge where we will help you remove the obstacles that are in your way that keeps you from living the life you want, manifesting your dreams, and doing what it is that you want to do. Whether it's start a business, go to nursing school, be a lawyer, write a book, I don't know, become a dancer, whatever it is that you want to do, you've been holding back. And you think that you can't do it. Well, I'm here to tell you that you can, and we're going to help you do that. Now, we're going to get into today's episode, which I want to talk about the TI versus Godfrey beef. And so I might be a few days late in the game on this, you all, but I couldn't resist the opportunity for this to be a teachable moment of what's going on between TI and Godfrey, okay? Because there is a teachable moment of effective communication and resolving conflict. And so that's something that I want to touch on, and it's something that I teach on because so many relationships, friendships, family dynamics, misunderstandings, all of this happens because we don't know how to effectively communicate with one another. And effective communication and resolving conflict, that's like something you learn when you have to go through professional development. So those are types of courses that they offer you in corporate America, or even when, some type of corporate America environment, when they're trying to professionally develop you, they will give you training on effective communication and resolving conflict. But this is equally important for personal development. When you are healing and you are becoming, this is a skill that is needed in order to build healthy relationships. And so I just kind of saw something happening between T.I. and Godfrey that I said, I think this is a moment that I can use this as an example to show people um, how to handle conflict, what to do or what not to do, because a lot of times we don't know. We don't know unless somebody shows us. We don't think that how we communicate, there's anything wrong with how we communicate until someone shows us. And then I think it's ironic how we can see the wrong of how others communicate, but we don't see how we do what they do. We want to get upset that the way somebody talked to us, their tone, how they treat us, that they're dismissive or whatever those things may be, not realizing the very thing that you can't stand that someone does to you, you do it too. And that's probably why you can't stand it. But I want to talk about it, talk about this beef. And I can't really say that it's so much a beef, but just the difference in perspective, the difference in how you handle the conflict, and the difference in how you see what's going on. And what I saw and heard when T.I. confronted Godfrey, I feel is a teachable moment for to learn on how to handle conflict. So that's why I wanted to do this. And so I got my notes. Y'all know I got my notes. I always got notes. And so I want to break this down and share my perspective with you all, because me and my husband didn't come out with the same perspective. We watched the same videos and had a different perspective. Now, let me tell you, we're on our way back from Atlanta a week ago, and we hear this podcast episode. It's only about 10 minutes long, so I guess they must have took some clips, I don't know, and they put it up. And we listened to it while we were driving on the way home, and it is what it is. Move on. No big deal. Then just the other day, we see another episode where T.I. is on there by phone. And so we started listening to it. It's a 20-minute clip. So I'm going to play some clips for you, but if you get a chance, go listen to it for yourself. But it wasn't until we were listening to this 20-minute clip that I realized me and my husband did not walk away with the same perspective. Now, I walked away with the perspective that T.I. had. My husband, on the other hand, walked away with a perspective that Godfrey had. And so I want to be able to show how you can have different perspectives, but when you effectively communicate, you can resolve conflict, which they did. I'm not going to say that they didn't, but I want to point out some things. But before I do that, I want you to listen to these clips. Now, I chopped it up. So, again, go listen to the full 10 minutes one, but I chopped this up a little bit because we don't have time to listen to 10 minutes of clips of a clip. So I'm just going to play you the parts, and I want you to listen, and then I'll come back because just listen.
T.I. is here and he wants to go on like after I said what? But I was like, dude, I'm not gonna say no to T.I.
Yeah.
If it could have been KRS-One, I'd be like, yeah, let him do it.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where you go, as a comedian, I'm like, why the fuck are you in our lane?
Space, yeah.
But as a branding, this is a good look,
yeah.
As in everybody's about visual, everybody's about social media, I go, sure. Oh. I didn't go in to watch T.I. because as a headliner, no one's supposed to go up after you.
Yeah.
Right.
But there's a code in comedy that I follow. I'm not watching what you can't do better than me.
Yeah.
You're not a comedian to me. You're working your way. I give him, he's taking it seriously. I don't know how long he's going to do that.
Yeah.
But I'm not coming back after I finish my shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I tore that bitch down and I'm going to go back and go watch someone who's
who's not a comic.
Who's not a comedian.
Yeah.
And he was really gracious and shit.
Yeah.
Thanks for letting me up, boom, boom. And we did I did a fucking live with him.
Yeah.
And people say there's Godfrey and T.I.
Yeah.
Visual.
Right.
Okay.
I get that.
It looks like he just started. I'm looking up like how long he's been doing, like literally like in the last month.
Yeah, like a couple of
weeks.
weeks.
In Atlanta's talking about it. I know comics in Atlanta talking.
I mean, it's like T.I. And I'm like, I heard some laughter, some in and out, but I'm like, are they laughing because, oh my God, it's fucking T.I. Like,
yeah.
It's a big shiny object.
Yeah.
Because there's gonna be times
he's gonna have to go to open mics if he wants to actually do it. He can't just keep busting in and jumping off people's shows.
But a lot of people think comedy is just this thing you can kind of get lucky on.
Yeah.
Like, nah, dude. I'm talking about the art of comedy, not getting on a TV show because you can look like somebody and get on.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the art of comedy, like joke to joke, bang, 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 transition,
Okay, y'all. Let me break this down. I want to break this down to you before I play T.I.'s response. So I'm going to read my notes here because I want to be exact. I don't want to misquote what was said, but Godfrey says at the teaser clip that they played before they got into the podcast episode, he says, no one's supposed to go up after you. Yeah, right. But there's a code in comedy that I follow. I'm not watching what you can't do better than me. I'm not watching what you can't do better than me. Yeah, you're not a comedian to me. You're not working your way. I give him, he's taking it seriously, but I don't know how long he's going to do that. So that right there has a tone. And while to me, it has a tone. Now, the whole time I'm listening to this, my husband's like, he's a comedian and they say things. I didn't even take it that way. And I'm like, you need to go back and listen to this again because how could you not? He was kidding. I'm like, no, he wasn't kidding. So I think that was a sneak diss. Like you're already saying that he's not a comedian. He's not better than you. He shouldn't have went on after you. Although later he says, oh yeah, it's T.I. Let him go on after me. He's cool with that. But you weren't cool with it. So then he goes on to say, he says, why, hold on. My notes is bad, y'all. But he said that he's not a comedian. I'm like, why the effing are you in our lane? But on the flip side, he saw it was good branding. So in one breath, you're like, this is my lane. Why he trying to be in my lane? Sneak this. But then you want to clean it up saying, well, this will be good for the brand. So you using him? Is that what you're doing? And then he talked about there's a code that you don't go on after a headliner. So my question is probably the same as T.I. or was the same as T.I. And I'll play that in a minute. Why didn't he say that? You was backstage kiki and ha and taking pictures and acting like everything's cool when you didn't really think that was cool for him to go on after you because you were the headliner. Why didn't you say that? From one OG in comedy to another OG in hip hop that you say you have respect for, why didn't you take him to the side and let him know that hey, you're TI, I respect you. It was cool that you went on, but I need to let you know if you're gonna continue to be in this comedian game that there's a protocol that you have to follow, and you don't go on after the headliner. So I'm just letting you know that, so that if you continue to do this, that you don't do that to someone else and then begin to offend the comedians in the comedy world. He could have easily had that conversation. Like, if you liked him and respected him that much and y'all was cool like that and y'all backstage kiki and ha, why couldn't you not have told him that? Right? And maybe that wouldn't have been the appropriate time. But then if that wasn't the appropriate time, you could have then called him later, not got on a podcast and sneak dissed and dogged him out. I say dogged him out, those are my words, that y'all are not respecting who he is in his craft. And then he says that he's not going to watch comedians. Why can't you watch other comedians? Why can't you study somebody else's craft or people that are up and coming, so that as the OG you can give them advice? I mean, I don't know. It was a tone. There was an arrogance there for me. I mean, you have artists, you have singers who listen to other singers, and you have, coaches that listen to other, like, what makes you a comedian that you can't listen to other comedians? Now, he probably didn't mean it that way, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, but that's the tone. Whether he meant it that way or not, it's a tone that he was given, and it was a tone of arrogance. It was a tone that I'm better than you. And I mean, he called TI a big shiny object, and then commented on, they commented on him not paying his dues, that he need to go do some shows, not even knowing what he's done and why he was there and how he prepared and how long he's been preparing and who's been working with him to prepare him. The conversation had a tone. It had a tone to me that when I'm driving home from Atlanta listening to this, I'm like, wow, that's not cool. That's what I'm saying in my head. All the while my husband's in the passenger seat thinking nothing of it. And so now I want to play you TI's response. So listen to this.
My friend, and I wanted to introduce you. We talked today earlier, you know what I'm saying? People are like, yo, man, I heard you had some beef. I said, beef with what, man? Fuck y'all talking about? But this man right here is a rap god, first off, has represented the South like to the utmost, as multi-platinum, super multi-platinum. Yes. God damn, been rapping over 20-something years. I'm a fan. I have you in my fucking playlist when I go to the gym. And I love your movies, the whole nine, bro. And now I welcome you to the Comedy Factory, the one, the only legend, Mr. T.I. And I didn't go in because that's just me. When I'm a headline, I don't even watch the comedians that are on my show. I just don't do that. I just don't watch it because it's like, we working at McDonald's eating the fucking food. You know what I mean? I just don't. It's nothing against anybody. I just don't watch. So I go, I've never seen that. Someone go, unless the headliner himself goes, yo, I got a special friend in the fucking, I want to bring him up, boom, boom. So, and as a person of comedy tenure, I'm gonna say, well, that's a little strange, but I didn't say, nah, he can't. I said, nah, this is his town. Shit, let him go up there. Shit, that's all I said. And so what was said on my podcast was misconstrued as if I was downing. I said, I never downed him, dude. I just was talking about the comedy culture. I didn't down T.I. I'm a fan of T.I. He's a fantastic artist.
What I would say is, okay, it wasn't that I thought you were getting on me or anything. It was just, as a rapper, we call that shit sneak dissing. Like, that's how it came off as subliminal.
Okay.
And for one, I think you guys are ill-informed.
Mm-hmm.
So what I heard the young lady and the young man on there saying that, okay, well, Usually people go to open mic nights first. Usually people pay their dues and do this, that, and the other. And to be honest with you, if you wanted to know the path that brought me to the stage that night, I think it would have been wise for us to have that discussion before you went speaking on things that you ain't even know about.
Right.
And after I got off stage, when I was backstage, it was such a pleasant exchange.
Hell yeah, it was.
It was such a pleasant exchange. And I appreciated me and you. Felt like you appreciated me and me. So I was, forgive the term, flabbergasted when I heard, like, you're like, hey man, I wasn't going in there to watch him, man. I ain't, man, make me look small and I'm like, bro, come on, man. This ain't the same nigga I met backstage.
As far as
it was not the point of you saying you weren't going to come see me. Like and it wasn't the point of you saying that you didn't want me to come on stage. It's the tone in which it was a very condescending tone, and it was really, to me, kind of like, again, I'll say it was a different person than the person I met backstage. And I felt like any kind of discomfort you may have felt, and if I crossed the line, I felt like you would have said that then. Like, hey, bro, I know you straight. I know you just getting in this, but you ain't supposed to go up after the headliner, right? If you had something to say, I feel like you would have said that right then.
Yeah,
I wouldn't expect it to be all smiles and shits and giggles. And then when I turn my back and now I see you, the same person I met, took a picture with and all that shit.
Yep.
And now it's like, oh, well, he shouldn't have came up. That's the rules and da-da-da-da-da-da.
No, I said it's just the way comedians talk. And I'm not dissing you at all, because there's motherfuckers that have been dissing you like, why the fuck is he doing comedy in the first place? I wasn't doing that. I said, hey man, it's his town. Let him go up. I did not get mad. I just went, let him go up. But not to put you down, not to be condescending to you, because I was not doing that.
Okay, so T.I. tells him that he had a condescending tone. It really wasn't even about what he said. The fact that he shouldn't have went on after him because he was the headliner, like, he respect that, that's cool. But he let him know it was the tone. It was the way in which you said it. And here's my teachable moment. Because Godfrey responds with that he wasn't condescending. And he wants to let T.I. know that I respect you. So he did a whole lot of complimenting of T.I. at the beginning of the podcast. He did all of giving him all these accolades and respect. And it just, as T.I. said, it's kind of like, okay, you giving me all these props, you giving me all this respect, you're giving me all this honor right now, but that's not what you was doing in that other podcast when you was sneak dissing. And he let him know, like, look, I understand what you're saying. If you're saying that you don't watch people that you never do, you the headliner, I should have came on after you, but it's your tone. And it's Godfrey's response that I want to show you all how what his response was dismissive of T.I.'s feelings and what he was trying to express to Godfrey, to say that you're not condescending. And so that's a issue that a lot of us have, is because when we are talking, you may have a tone that you're not aware of your tone. And then others may tell you of that tone, but you want to tell yourself, I didn't do that. I didn't say that like that. I wasn't like that. But yes, you were. And that comes down to perspective. What may be normal for you is not normal for someone else. And so you have to understand that if someone's telling you that you have a tone that is offensive to them, that's insulting them, that's intimidating them, or making them feel a certain type of way, or afraid, even, because if you're being aggressive, you can't say you don't have that tone. Sometimes we are not aware of how we're coming across to people, and we have to start becoming aware of how we come across to people. We have to start listening to the feedback that we're getting. And just because you feel like that's not you doesn't mean that it's not you. You're being resistant in that moment, when it could be a moment where you can see yourself for who you are and make the changes that you need to make. Now, I did make a post about whether it was your intentions or not, if you offend somebody, you need to, recognize that you need to change, and that don't be dismissive of their feelings. And somebody responded to that saying, how about the other person needs to not be so offended? Listen, it's two sides here. There's a side of TI that has to accept the apology, accept the justification that Godfrey gave, which I just, that's a whole, that I'm gonna talk about that in a minute. But then there's the side of the person who's being offensive, and you can't not we can't work around someone who's being offensive. If you're being offensive, period, point blank, it doesn't matter what healing that person needs, it doesn't matter what perspective that person needs to get. You have to watch how you speak to people. You have to watch your tone. You have to watch your words. You have to learn how to be able to communicate with a diverse group of people. You can't put the change all on the victim. You can't put the change all on the person who's hurting. You can't put the change on the person who's offended. It can't just be one-sided. You can't keep going around thinking that you can say whatever you want to say, how you want to say it, and that everybody's just supposed, well, it's your problem. It's your problem. And that's your problem, and you need to heal, and you need to change your perspective. Yes, they maybe need to change their perspective and not take things so personally. But you have to change how you're showing up and how you're communicating. Godfrey's response to say he wasn't condescending, well, sir, I'm sorry, but you were. You were. When I listened to that podcast, I heard sneak this. I heard being funny, and I didn't think it was cute myself. So when T.I. comes back, I'm like, well, okay, I'm not crazy. But then my husband's sitting over there like, well, what did he say wrong? There was nothing to say wrong. And in that conversation, I had to tell my husband, because you have a different type of mentality, that you have to come out of that hood mentality that you have. My husband's not hood, but he does have a little bit of a hood mentality, where you have to start understanding other people and their, not just cultures, but just cultures, because everyone's different. How they were raised was different. The Midwest is different from the South, which is different from the East and the West. And we do things different. We speak things differently. What's okay in the Midwest may not be okay down South. What's okay in America may not be okay in Italy or in the Middle East. And we've got to learn to be able to communicate with a diverse group of people and understand that, yes, you are offensive, whether you meant to be offensive or not. Godfrey may not have meant to be condescending, but it was his tone. And so in that moment, what should have happened was, we have to start recognizing when someone comes to us and we've offended them, to be able to say, okay, I hear you. I hear that I, came across the way that I didn't mean to come, and I apologize. Take accountability for what you said and how you said it and the words you use. I don't know if I heard him say, I'm sorry. It was, I didn't mean it. I didn't say that way. I didn't do that. I didn't say this. I meant this. It was nothing but justification. And when you continue to justify your behavior, that's dismissive of the other person whom you have offended or hurt. And that's when it becomes unfair, and that's when the communication doesn't become effective. We have to learn to have accountability when resolving conflict. Everyone has to be accountable for their part in the downfall. Now, what I've learned in communication is that the communication is all on the sender, not the receiver. So if I'm speaking to you and you're not getting my message, it's not coming across, it's my responsibility to change how I'm talking, to change my words, to change my sentences, to change my tone, so you can get the message that I need you to get. Because yes, we have different perspectives based upon our upbringing and what we've been through and our experiences that filter how we process what's being said and what's happening. And so as the sender, you don't always know what is the filters that they have of how they're processing what you said. And if whatever you said, they processed it in a way that's offensive, you've got to acknowledge that. You gotta take accountability. When you don't, that's being dismissive. And being dismissive is one of the biggest communication mistakes that we make that causes problems in relationships. We have to stop being dismissive of other people's feelings, because you wouldn't want somebody to be dismissive of yours. So the proper way to communicate and resolve conflict is to first listen. Listen to what the person is saying. Take accountability for your actions and what you did. Should you have an opportunity to really tell them what you meant? Absolutely. And then that other person needs to be able to accept that you didn't mean it that way. Because again, the person sending the message has their own perspective from their upbringing and their experiences and their past. So they've got their filters. And so how they deliver something may have been okay for them because of the filters that they have. And so now when they're telling you that's not how I meant it, this is what I really meant to say, or this is how I meant to say it, or it didn't come out right, then the other person needs to now be able to accept that and move on. So eventually at the end, they, it's cool. They move on. It's all good. But I just wanted to be able to show you, in that moment, we could have resolved this a whole lot faster. It didn't even, I think the real podcast is like an hour and something. But even in the 20-minute clip, we could have resolved this a whole lot faster if whether Godfrey meant it or not, be accountable for what you said. Because whether you meant to be condescending, you had a tone. You had a tone, and TI was not the only one who heard the tone. And so you got to be accountable about how you come across, whether you are a comedian or not. All right. Where you are is not where you have to be. Your past does not define you. You define you. So heal, transform, and pursue